Welcome back to Delfino Square. It's been almost exactly a year since I finished the modeling side of the Delfino Square track revamp, and as fun as it was to mod the track into the game, I really enjoyed the 3D modeling part the most, which is why today we're going to decorate Delfino Square for Halloween. I started with the latest version of the model, which I was using for the modding, and stripped away the minimap overlay and the collision model. I went around and fixed all of the stuff that just randomly broke at some point, and scaled the whole model down so it would be easier to work with. I put down a point light to get an idea of the model's scale, and yeah, it's still ridiculously giant, so I'll keep going until the point light's able to actually illuminate stuff without being at like a million power. Then I moved that point light around to see which objects still had their normal maps, and which ones Blender had decided didn't deserve them anymore. Which is when I realized I still had this crappy default 2007 Wii texture on the bridges, so I swapped it for one of the new building textures, which just magically perfectly mapped on. Now I'll start making the skybox out of a big sphere, and I'll place a sun, which we can turn into a moon by making it slightly blue colored. Then I can cut the sphere in half and put a cool spooky skybox image on it, and I'll orient the moon part of the skybox to where the light is coming from. And after adding a glowy yellow sphere, we've got ourselves a nice skybox, and a giant shadow of the moon. Luckily, there's a setting hidden away in a menu somewhere that I didn't know about to make the moon not cast shadows. Much better. Just like when we decorated Coconut Mall, the skybox and lighting does most of the work here. But we're gonna need some more objects and materials to spice things up. So I looked around Twisted Mansion from Mario Kart 8 to find some potential resources. I think these trees will work. Let's download the model and get those stolen. It looks like there's a good amount of textures in here too that might come in handy. But first, let's grab one of those trees out of the track model, copy it to the clipboard, and paste it into Delfino Square. Now I can just place all these trees over the old ones. I went ahead and used the Twisted Mansion grass texture here too, but it was a little bit too dark, so I went into Photoshop and brightened it up a little bit. This looks pretty nice, but I feel like these trees could look a little bit better. No, I'm joking. I'm never taking tree-related feedback ever again. These things are good enough. While I was placing trees, I tried scaling up the ones next to the clock building, which I think looks really cool. Then I continued placing the rest of them uncreatively, because I was all out of tree creativity by that point. Now that the trees are all placed, we can join them together to keep our scene collection organized. I'm sure that'll last. Let's try to replace the tree billboards next. There is one in Twisted Mansion, but those are some kind of pine trees. I knew there would be something good in Luigi's Mansion for the GameCube, and I was half right. There was something. Sure, I am putting GameCube models and textures into something that's supposed to be an upgrade from Wii era. Sorry. Let's take this little shack thing and this tree into Delfino Square. I'm not sure what I'll do with the shack, but the tree can use this other purple tree texture and help add some variety. Also, fun fact, this Luigi's Mansion GameCube tree has 766 polygons, while the Wii U Mario Kart 8 tree has 307. So in 13 years, the polygon count went down significantly, not up. I noticed the grass plane texture was still a yellow color, so I darkened that to match the rest of the grass, and also started replacing the flowers with the ones that I made for Coconut Mall's Halloween video. Replacing these flowers might not seem necessary, but having these little splashes of color cohere with the rest of the scene is actually pretty important. Now the grass is darker and the flowers are more spookier. I did the flags next, using the color replacement tool to paint them purple and orange. I had to get rid of the top one since an odd amount won't work with a two-color pattern like this. I also painted the bronze gate to look more like steel. Now we can apply the texture, which looks good, but the points on the end of the gate are still bronze. That's on a different texture, which I now feel obligated to also make more fitting to this spooky overhaul, which just means more desaturating and darkening. Now the gate's finished and the wood posts are a little bit better looking. I'll do the covers over the shop next, which of course will be alternating orange and purple. Now I'll finally update those tree billboards that I went into the Luigi's Mansion model for earlier. I'm gonna need to fix the UVs and scale them down a bit, which means I need more of them now. So we'll go around and fill gaps and make this look like a dense forest, making sure that your sightline doesn't break through to whatever's on the other side. But I think I put too many of the actual trees down, so let's get rid of some of those and just put more flat layers in. I also deleted a few trees and moved this arrow sign to open up a better view over here. Then I moved that little shack over here and put a soft yellow light on it. I think that works. After that, I got that Mario Galaxy jack-o'-lantern Goomba and subtracted the Goomba to just get a jack-o'-lantern. With an emissive material inside, this should work perfectly. That'll add some nice orange glow. But let's get some more by making an emissive map for the windows. This is a very tedious process. Or maybe I'm just dumb and I was doing it wrong. But regardless, the map looks really nice on the windows. Now I want to get those other windows on the light color buildings to be green and purple. I randomly selected half of the windows by using select random, then select more. Then I made those windows purple, and the windows that were still black were made green. And as cool as those green and purple windows look, this main street looks crazy with these orange windows. Let's make the green and purple windows look better by making them gradients to black. That way it's not just a flat color shining out, it looks a little bit more ambient. Alright, now we can set up some lights in these windows. Oh no, this is gonna take till next Halloween. As soon as I accidentally did this while trying to set up one single light, I knew I would have to find a better way to do this. Well, let's just use the Cycles render engine. Well, looks like Halloween is ruined. Luckily, this guy uploaded a video about a box thing that you could set up that makes everything look really good, which by now I probably should know about. So I made one and scaled it all the way up over the whole entire model. My thinking was, I want the whole thing to look good. But Blender didn't really like that. The plan was to crank the resolution up way too high and click bake, which I assume bakes my graphics card. But I guess not, cause no smoke came out of my computer, and no pretty lighting happened. So I scaled down to just this building and tried again, which also didn't work, until I cranked the intensity setting up to 10 and baked again. Turns out it was working, it was just too subtle. Now I'll try scaling it back up, but just to this alleyway square this time. And that looks pretty awesome, especially this part over here. I can even change the settings and get all kinds of different looks. Again, I probably should have known about this by now. Now I can just duplicate that box and rebake the lighting in each of these areas that I want to showcase. After setting up those two boxes, I moved on to the clock building. I set up the windows and door and started updating the clock itself. I went with green and purple here. It was really satisfying to retexture, and the results are pretty cool looking. Then I got all the lighting set up and baked it on with another light probe box. I knew I couldn't just keep making these things forever, but nothing had broken yet, so I wasn't gonna stop. Next I focused on the Pianta statue. I gave him purple glowing eyes, which was pretty cool, but it feels like he's obstructing the view of the mansion. So let's put him somewhere else. I bet it would be pretty scary to have him towering over in the forest. Let's see. Yeah, pretty scary. But the arrow signs next to the mansion are a little bit distracting. Let's make them blend in a little bit better. I'll also update everything else in this texture too, like the signs. These signs from Twisted Mansion should do the trick. I wanted to replace this cloud sign with a boo, but I realized it's a mirroring image, so I need an image of a boo facing head on. So I got a picture of a toy boo and did a stylize filter to make it look less plasticky. And you know what? I think that works. I'll set up a little spotlight too to make it more visible. After that, I set up a giant untextured cube in the forest. I figured, what the heck, why not? This is actually going to be a fog volume. I want to have a thin layer of fog over the outer edges of the forest and a bunch of fog in the less visible areas. It was looking pretty good until I got too far away and it disappeared. I guess there's some kind of fog clipping setting somewhere that I've got to turn up. But now we've got a pretty awesome looking foggy forest, and that graveyard fog on the ground looks cool too. I actually ended up coming across a better tree billboard texture in the 3DS version of the Mario Kart DS Luigi's Mansion track, which is weirdly a really good source for some Luigi's Mansion GameCube textures, since they're higher resolution there. Now it's time to put a bunch of little details around, like more jack-o'-lanterns and spiderwebs and stuff. This spiderweb texture from that same 3DS track fits these bridges perfectly. I also made an emissive map for the signs so you can read them a little bit better. And with just a handful of finishing touches, we've got enough to start getting some renders. This is Delfino Square decorated for Halloween. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this brief return to Delfino Square. I'm thinking of coming back in a week or two before October's over and making this model look even spookier. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that. Well anyways, that's all for this week. I'll talk to you later. Thanks.